All right, so what I'll do, I'll start with. I started working with a group by the name of. Are any of y'all familiar with Little Brother? Fonte and Big Pooh. So big up, Little Brother. I was a big fan of them. So I started working with Little Brother, and so I built a relationship with Fonte, Little Brother, for an exchange. Started building a relationship with Fonte, and it's crazy because like out of all the producers Fonte worked with, he hit me up one day and he was like, "Yo, S," he was like, "Rhymefest is needing a producer to redo this beat for him, and you were the first person I thought about. So I want to link y'all to, and you can." So I was like, "Cool, I'm a big fan of Rhymefest, So he linked us. First time I talked to Rhymefest, he was like, "Yo, I'm gonna send you the acapella, redo this beat." It was a situation where this producer not letting me use the beat, so I just need a track for it. So I did the beat, sent it to him. He loved it. He hit me up and he was like, "Yo, send me a few more beats. I'm finishing my album. I thought I'd let it get some more production from you." So I sent him some more beats, and he hit me one day, and when he called me, he was like, "There's 4 beats I want from you for my album, but I'm at the end of my budget. I can only pay you for 2 of the beats." And I wasn't tripping. I was like, "Yo, I'm a big fan, love, let's just work." So I was like, "Just pay me for the 2 beats, and I'll just give you the other 2 beats. I'm not tripping." So I gave him the other 2 beats. His album came out, maybe a few months later passed, and Rhymefest hits me out the blue one day, and he was like, "Yo, S, I'm in the studio with Kanye. Send me some joints over. If I get the opportunity, I'll try to play him some." So I was like, "Cool." I sent him some beats. Didn't hear from him right back. It was like maybe a couple weeks. So, just with that being said, it's like, maybe he didn't like them, or he didn't get to play them. So about 2 or 3 weeks later, Rhymefest shoots me a text, just randomly shoots me a text, and the text says, I'm reading the phone, and it says, "Kanye is loving your stuff. He says he's about to change your life." So, we looking at the text like, "Man, this is crazy." So yeah, he sends that text, and the next day, my wife and I, we were out eating, and I get an email from Kanye's manager, and it said, "Get to the airport, your flight leaves in 3 hours." I mean, just like that. Like, so we didn't even, we had ordered our food, we didn't even get it, we just left. I remember we was at Red Lobster. We just left Red Lobster, went back home. I was throwing stuff in my suitcase, my equipment, get everything so I wouldn't leave something. My wife took me to the airport, and the whole time I'm sitting like, "Yo, what is going on? Like, this is happening quick. Like, is Ashton gonna come out and say you can?" Because it was happening that fast. We were just trying to decipher everything. But so I get to Hawaii. When I first get to the studio, Rhymefest is just Rhymefest and Kanye in the booth, and they was like, "Yo, first door on the left, and Rhymefest and Kanye is in there." So I get in there. Rhymefest introduced me to Kanye. He's like, "Yo, this is S1, S1 is Kanye." And the very first thing Kanye said was like, "Yo, I like your beats." And I was like, "Yo, I like your beats too." He played me the joint. He was like, "Yo, I want to play the Power joint." I recorded something to it. He played it for me, and I was just blown away. It was an early version of it, but it was still dope. And then just the fact that like, yo, like I'm actually in this room, and he's actually recorded to this beat, that I made at the crib. Just wasn't thinking about anybody for the beat, where I was actually thinking about Rhymefest for the beat at first. But the fact that I was there was like, yo, this is incredible.
That must have been the longest plane ride ever, though.
It was. It was super long.
Craziness. So, okay, so you're there. Kanye plays you the record. You ended up staying longer than you were supposed to stay.
Yeah, I was supposed to stay a week with Kanye. The day I was supposed to go back, I'm in the studio with Kanye. We're at the board, and I was like, "Yo, yay!" I was like, "Appreciate you bringing me out. My flight leaves tonight." He was like, "Oh," he was like, I got Nicki Minaj coming through tonight. Stay an extra day." Oh man. So I was like, "Cool, wherever you need me to be, I'm chilling." Nicki Minaj came through. He introduced. He was like, "Yo, this S1 Mickey." He was like, "Nicki, you better get something from him because he's about to be like the dude." They had a good conversation with Nicki. So the next day, I'm in the studio with Ye, and I'm like, "Yo, Ye, my flight leaves tonight." He was like, "Yo, you gotta stay extra day. I got Rick Ross coming through tonight." Stayed another day. Rick Ross came through, same thing. That's one thing I can say about Kanye is he's always like, he's never like tried to cover up or hold me back from any type of situation. It's always like, yo, introduce, and that says a lot, So I wound up staying an extra week after the week I was supposed to go back, and I didn't even have book. I was staying in his house when he wasn't even there. So like every night, about 3 o'clock, we get this done in the studio about 3 o'clock. The driver would take me back to his crib. He would stay. He literally does not sleep. He sleeps an hour at the studio, gets back up and right back to work. Like literally. So I would go back to his crib, and I remember every day he would show me where the key was, and I just get the key from the mat, open the door, and I just be like standing in the dark crib, and I'm just looking like, wow, like am I really in Kanye's house and he's not here? So it was like a big, I don't know, because it's things we all have dreams and visions, but to actually be in that moment of like, yo, this actually happening. What we're working hard for, what I'm working hard on, and you start thinking about all the sacrifices and all the setbacks, and it's like, yo, that was building me for this moment.
And the interesting part of all that is like, I'm sure there was times where you were like, I don't know if I could even continue doing this, right?
Absolutely.
And then to be there and have that all happen simultaneously, number one, I'm sure it was overwhelming, but at the same time, sure, there must have been a great sense of self-gratification.
Yes. And confirmation that this was what I was supposed to do no matter what. I tell people that it took me 12 years to get to that first placement. Like literally 12 years of trying to figure it out, learning, the disappointments, setbacks, and not saying it wasn't any good in that, because there was good things, but just going through those moments. It took me 12 years. So what if I would have threw in the towel that 11th year? Like I would have forfeited everything.
Yeah, craziness. Y'all give it up for S1, man. It does, man. It gets emotional, man. Like you just think about it from your perspective of how much equipment you guys buy as producers. How much time and money invested into your studios, coming out to beat camps. Think about all the lost time from your family.
Yeah.
All these different things that you don't really take into account when you put it through the math equation, for success. But when you ever see that meme where it's like there's like two people digging towards the gold mine, and then the one person's walking back and he's almost there, and then the other person's like maybe like 2 feet away from, but he's still, that's really what it is when it comes to the music industry. And then you gotta understand sometimes too, it's not always like, I think we all had this, conception that, okay, well, I'm not really where I want to be right now. But the reality of it is, if you have faith, you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. Like, we're all here for a reason. We're all just kind of came together for a reason, right? So the next step is to continue working hard towards whatever your goals are.
That's right.
So that's really where we are with this. And like you said, he got to a point where he had to just keep going and make it happen. Let's talk about from that point now, because now you had an opportunity to work with or meet Beyonce, Jay. How did all that kind of come into play?
So all that came from, of course, my relationship with Kanye. After I did the Power record, Kanye would just be like, yo, come back out. I got some more beats. I kept continuing to send him beats. One thing, when I left that first time, I was like, I have to make this album. So I was like, I got his contact. I have to send him a batch. My goal was to send him a batch of stuff every week. So every week I would send him a batch, and he'd be like, yo, hold these 2 for me. Or hold this one. And then after about the second week, he was like, yo, come back to Hawaii. I want to track all these beats. So I went back out there. That's when I found out that Power was going to be his first single. And every day we would play basketball, and he would just pull me over to the side and be like, yo, he was like, man, I just thank you for the beat. And he would, every time he see me, he would thank me, be like, yo, you don't understand what this means to me. He's like, I want you to be a part of the team. I just like your energy and your vibe. I want you to be a part of the team. And then like the next day, he'd be like, yo, me and Jay, we're thinking about doing a collaborative album. We probably just go to another country and just record it. So, a couple months later, I get an email from him. He's like, me and Jay going to Australia tomorrow. Can you come? What type of question is that?
Let me check my schedule. Hold on a second.
Yeah, so yeah, I wound up going to, first we went to London for a week. We started the Watch the Throne album, and that's when I got to build with Jay. First time, it was the first week, it was just, cool. We was working every day in the lab. But then after we left London a couple weeks, Kanye was like, yo, come to Australia with us. We're gonna go to Australia, work on the album some more. So I went to Australia with him, and that's when I really got the bond with Jay, and that's why I did my deal with Rock Nation, because of Jay brought me over there. So Jay-Z, super cool dude. So I got to build a relationship with him. And of course, because Jay-Z was there, Beyonce was there with us. So I got to bond with her. And after we left, before we left Australia, it was a situation where she asked me to come up to her studio and listen to some of her songs from a record that she was recording the record for at the time, or the album for. And so I went and I gave some constructive criticism on some joints. And she was like, I remember it was one joint she played, and I was like, man, I think the drums could be better. I love the song. So she was like, why don't you take the Pro Tools session and redo the drums for me? So that was another opportunity right there, just by being honest, because I could easily be like, oh, that's dope, and move to the next joint, So I did the drums from her, played it for her, and she was like, I love this. So she was like, at the top of the year, I'm gonna go work on my album in New York. Would you mind coming out? And I was like, cool, just let me know. Literally January 2nd, I get the call from her. It's like, can you come out to New York this week to have me on my album? So I went to New York to work on the 4 album with her.
The Halo record.
Best thing
I ever had.
Best thing I ever had record, yeah.
Crazy.
So and really my career has really just been that, just building the relationships from another relationships. And what's crazy is, like, when I first did Power, I was like, man, I'm about to be able to work with all these people, but I thought it would be quicker, but the timing wasn't right. Like, sometimes we can get impatient and we think we're supposed to be in certain places at certain times, but it's like, no, it's not timing. It's just letting God direct that.
Right.
And just in the process of waiting and in the process of working for that, just understanding that, that process is the learning and the growing to get you so you're ready for when that opportunity. Right. Because a lot of times, I think if I was presented with a lot of opportunities early on, I may not be this far in my career because I wouldn't know how to handle it. So I always consider that 12 years up until that moment was just preparation.
Yeah. Yep.
It was preparation. It was practice. It was learning. It was growing. It was, how do I do this? How do I get better at this?
Right.
So when God presents that opportunity, it's like, okay, I know now, I'm ready for it.
Right.
And the crazy part is that, you think of like the discography that you have in such what seems like a short period of time since you did that Ye record. You look at Eminem, Adam Levine, 50 Cent, and then more recently having the opportunity to work with Gladys Knight and executive producing that, the stuff that you worked on with with Madonna and being a part.